Good evening and welcome to the Vol Bros. My name is Evan. This is my brother, Agent Michael Scarn, and we are two Vol Bros who are actually bros in real life. We're excited to be with you this evening on a rare Thursday live show from the Vol Bros. But obviously, we're going live tonight because SEC tournament action for the basketballs kicked off today, or I guess I should say tipped off today. And they had an excellent showing with a 70-55 win over Ole Miss. Now they will play Missouri tomorrow afternoon at 3:30, so same time as today in Nashville. Rustin, what were your takeaways from the game this afternoon?
I thought probably the most interesting thing, Jimmy Dykes actually read off a stat during the game and ended up being very true. Tennessee's 21-3 when they shoot at least 30% from the 3-point line. And, today they shot 35% and won. So now they're 22-3 when they shoot at least 30%. So I thought that was really interesting, and I think it speaks volumes to how the rest of this year is going to have to go. Josiah played a fantastic game today. Santi did a great job picking up the slack. Wasn't the best day for Jemai Meshack. He struggled at times, did not look good running the point, looked way better the other night than he did today. Tyreek Key came in, gave him some good minutes. I wouldn't say he was a world beater by any stretch of the imagination, but he did some positive things. Julian Phillips gave him some positive minutes. Julian is a bizarre individual to watch. I cannot figure out that guy. There's so many possessions when it looks like Julian can't hold the ball. Like he just fumbles the ball all the time. So I don't know if he just doesn't have very strong hands or if he has small hands. I don't know. It's bizarre, but it feels like every time he touches it, there's potential he's going to just cough it up. Post players today, I wouldn't say they were great, but they were adequate against a really bad Ole Miss post game. The four of them combined for 19 points and 13 rebounds. So essentially each post player averaged 5 points, 3 rebounds. It's okay. It was good enough for today, but moving forward, we got to have more from them, or it's going to be a short postseason.
Yeah, I guess my main negative from today was, and Rick Barnes had to be getting so tired of seeing it, was just the carelessness of just the lackadaisical turnovers. I mean, like passes just dropped. I mean, like it was bizarre. There was one time in particular they passed the ball between Kamwa and Meshack, and I mean it just went straight through his hands and right to the other team. Other times where I mean it happened 3 or 4 times, just careless turnovers. One time Jemai tried to jump to make an entry pass to the post to Julian Phillips in the second half. When he jumped,
that was a bizarre pass.
Yeah, he realized he couldn't make it, so he tried to make a bounce pass before he hit the ground.
and he ended up basically spiking the ball. It was
essentially.
It was bizarre.
Yeah. So that was my only, I guess, negative thing from today was, I mean, they got to take care of the ball, and that was that type of carelessness will come back to bite them if they don't, get it wrapped or taken care of, I should say.
This is how bad Ole Miss was today offensively. And some of it was our defense, but some of it was they just could not shoot at all. Like they've got some ugly shots. They only had 7 turnovers. Tennessee had 14. And we still beat them by 15 points.
Yeah, Ole Miss was hitting their shots in about the first 10 minutes, and after that, it really went downhill for them. And like you say, part of that's probably kudos to Tennessee's defense, but part of it was just they weren't hitting shots.
Yeah.
But, overall, I'd say a win's a win, in March. Yep. Santi was shooting the ball extremely well. That was fun to see. By the way, if you haven't seen Josh Mancuso's video with Santiago Vescovi. No, you're saying the same. Like that's part of the video. He's trying to teach him how to say it. It's hilarious. Vescovi. There we go. I got it. But if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's hilarious. But I'd say my player of the game for Tennessee was certainly Santiago Vescovi. He was clearly the spark plug on offense. Like they needed him bad today, and he stepped up. He made shots. He made a lot of shots. Um, I'd say I give a close second to Josiah Jordan James, but uh, my player of the game was Santi. Who was your player of the game for Tennessee today?
I'll take Josiah. And honestly, not because he scored 20. The points were great. We absolutely needed them. It was nice to see he and Santi both kind of decide, okay, we've got to be the guy. And they both were very much looking for their shot. But honestly, the bigger reason I gave it to him was he led the team in rebounding today. And on a day when the 4 post players garner a whopping 13 rebounds, it's a good thing Josiah got 7 more, because if he doesn't, that's second chance points for Ole Miss, and all of a sudden they're in that game.
Absolutely. What was your play of the game? Because nobody's going to like mine. I'm just telling you that now.
It was and they actually spotlighted the play. They actually spotlighted the play during the game. It was when Josiah relocated. Santi, it was probably middle second half, maybe 8 minutes left. Santi penetrated from the top of the key. Josiah relocated to the corner, and Santi found him for an easy 3, and he buried it. And they spotlighted it and talked about, what a heady move it was. He saw his defender turn his back. He relocated, spotted up for his shot, caught it in rhythm, took the shot in rhythm. It's just really good basketball. And it was, again, Santi and Josiah saying, okay, we know it's got to be the 2 of us. So we're just going to have a little 2-man game going right here and create a great shot.
So I guess my plays of the game for Tennessee were the free throws that Sonny hit right before he came out of the game at the end of the game. That's big. I mean, they got to have him doing that down the stretch because Zakai's not in anymore. Sonny has to be the guy from the line. And I thought that was huge, based off of a month or so ago. He missed a couple and everybody's on him and everything. So I thought that was big. Those were big shots. My actual play of the game did not come from Tennessee. There was that breakaway dunk that dude had for Ole Miss where I mean, it was like he was trying to recreate that old Shaquille O'Neal logo, where he's like hanging on the rim with his knees up,
Mm-hmm.
That was a monster jam. Like he brought it back, arched his back, and then came through and slammed it. I mean, kudos to that guy. I mean, that was a monster jam. So that was my play of the game. I know nobody will like that because it wasn't a Tennessee play, but that was my play of the game. What's your outlook for tomorrow against Missouri, 3:30 Eastern time?
I think everybody knows what the outlook needs to be. They were talking about on ESPN or SEC Network, one or the other night. Tennessee needs every game to be in the 50s and 60s. They don't need a shootout. They will not win a shootout. They need it to be boring. They need it to be slow, and they need it to be rough. And, if they can turn it into a street fight, even better. Urosh, Tobe, Jonas, they've all got 5 fouls to give. Use them all. It's not going to hurt anything. So the more physical they can make it and the more ugly they can make it, the better. They tend to get a lot of points that way. They get aggressive, scrappy, 50-50 ball kicks away, guy gets an easy layup because he's in the right place at the right time. They score a lot of points like that. So I think every game from this point forward, their goal needs to be to make it as ugly as humanly possible.
Yeah, I totally agree. In other recent Tennessee Volunteer news, The baseball team lost an incredible baseball game just 2 nights ago to Boston College. Boston College is 8-1 coming into the game. Tennessee was, I think, 11-2 coming into the game.
Yep.
It went into extra innings. Tennessee lost in the 10th. It was just a phenomenal baseball game. If the people who were there in Lindsey Nelson that night got their money's worth, there's no doubt about it. So,
yep.
Great game. They start a weekend series tomorrow against Morehead State. So that'll be Morehead State. No slouch. Obviously, not as good of a team as Boston College, but here's the thing: there is so much parity in college baseball. Well, in all college sports, but college baseball in particular this year seems like. For example, TCU lost to University of Texas at Arlington this week. TCU is one of the top 10 teams in the country, and they lost to Arlington. So, there's so much parity in college baseball. Tennessee should walk out of this weekend with a sweep. Who knows? Who knows? I think the fact that they'll have Dolander, Burns, and Beam throwing is going to be a major factor in what happens this weekend. But we'll see what happens. What do you think about this weekend?
I think it's 3 easy wins. Honestly, I don't foresee.
More of a pessimist than the rest.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's Morehead State. I don't foresee them giving us any kind of problems. I was just looking here real quickly.
I don't know. I've just seen too many things happen. So I'd have to quote the great Michael Scott, or Michael Scarn, as Reston's name is. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, strike 3. and that's appropriate since we're talking about baseball.
So here's why I don't put a whole lot of stock in. I told you the other night, midweek games have become glorified scrimmages. It's just not the same. Coaches don't treat it the same. Against Boston College, Tennessee played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 guys. Okay. There is not a weekend series game unless it goes into 15 extra innings where Tennessee will play 19 guys in one game. And so, if Tennessee's best 9 plays that whole game, they leave Xander Zekrist in more than 2 innings, and, they don't let the entire bullpen throw an inning to get work in. Tennessee doesn't lose to Boston College. It's just not the same. But the reality is the polls don't care about midweek games.
Exactly.
All of the ratings and all the polls are based on the weekend series. So what has happened is all of college baseball has become midweek is when you keep your bench guys happy. You play your entire roster, you get everybody a little bit of work, and whatever happens, and we don't really care that much.
Yeah. Obviously, I think they care that they lost. Not as much as it would be, if it was like a weekend series, but, they're too competitive to not care.
I don't know that Tony cared that much that they lost. He was really angry after the game, and I think he was angry about how they lost because they had the winning run on third with no outs. And didn't get him in.
Yeah.
And that infuriated Coach Vitello. Like you could see him in the dugout. He was livid. 3 guys didn't do their job in a row.
Yeah. One interesting thing that I noticed immediately that is to your point that, midweek games are the experimental games. We experiment with stuff, experiment with the lineup. We experiment with the player personnel. The Tennessee's batting order was totally different on Tuesday night. The only 3 spots that were the same, I think, were 2, 3, and 4. That's Christian Moore and Blake Burke and
Zane Denton.
And Griffin Merritt was 5th. So actually, no, or was he? I can't remember.
He bumped to 6th.
He was 6th. Yeah, that's right.
Mickey was 5th.
So yeah, that's right. They put Dickey at 5th. So I mean that was a completely different line. He's trying some stuff up, trying to see what could happen there. Trying to get Jared's bat deeper in the lineup, maybe get some RBIs, that kind of thing.
Well, the catalyst was because they actually did it Sunday. They actually did it Sunday against Dayton also. The catalyst was Maui hitting leadoff. They were trying to get Maui comfortable. Coach Vitello even said that after the game. He said the sole reason they moved Dickey to the 5-hole was so that Maui could get comfortable.
Ricky said, "Wow, talking baseball on day one of the SEC tournament." We are. We've already talked about the Tennessee game, the basketball game. So that's
It's
why
also
we've moved
day
on.
2, Ricky. Don't leave out South Carolina and LSU. Like those guys got to play yesterday.
So we have discussed Tennessee basketball for sure. Ricky, I'm going to give him a little street cred here. You know, Ricky got the scoop for us about Josiah Jordan. He said this means more. Yeah, Ricky's at the game right now, but Ricky got the scoop for us about Josiah Jordan James earlier this season. Like we at the Vol Bros knew that Josiah was not going to play against Kansas earlier this year before anybody else in the country did. we announced it first here because Ricky was literally talking to Josiah's dad before the game at the Battle for Atlantis, getting us that information. Ricky also knew today before ESPN was reporting it about Bill Self's heart condition. Ricky apparently knows people all over the country that give him information and send him screenshots of text messages and stuff. So Ricky knew about it way earlier today. So kudos to Ricky. And obviously, we hope nothing but the best for Bill Self. That is a scary situation. And so we hope that he has a very quick recovery and that he is okay. We hope for his team's sake that they can, I mean, obviously they're going to have to start the Big 12 tournament without him. I don't know how long he'll be in the hospital, but
I'm sure he's done. If it truly was a heart attack and now they're saying he had stents put in, if all those reports are true, he ain't coaching again this year.
The text message Ricky got earlier today said that he had stents put in and stuff like that. Coming from, close family members of Bill Self. So, we hope he's okay. We hope for his family's sake that he's okay. And, we wish nothing but the best for him.
So I think that's a good opportunity to plug what we're going to do Sunday. Because we're going to have our own little version of bracketology Sunday night. When we go live, talk about the rest of the SEC tournament and then talk about March Madness. But we were talking about it earlier today. This is not a year I want to pick a bracket. This is every game is going to be an absolute coin toss. When you look at the one line right now, Kansas is going to be a 1 seed. If the reports are true about Bill Self, they're going to play the entire March Madness without him. Which can be complicated. As much as you like to say you train your assistants for those moments, doesn't mean they respond.
Well, in the mental, capacity of the players to try to refocus, when they look over and their head coach isn't there, that's
Yep.
tough.
Yep. UCLA will probably be a 1. They just lost their second best player for the rest of the year. He's done. They barely got by Colorado today in the quarterfinals of the Pac-12 tournament without that guy. That was their first game without him, and they struggled. So they don't look much like a 1 seed anymore without him. Alabama, I mean, my goodness, could a team have any more distractions around it than Alabama does right now? Every time they take a court, all anybody's going to be talking about is all the off the court stuff.
And now it's not just them. They're like today after the Tennessee game, Rick Barnes was asked in a press conference about essentially they brought up Alabama and then segued into their question to Rick Barnes asking if Tennessee had a gun policy on their team.
Yep.
So it's not just Alabama now. It's impacting other teams at the SEC.
And then, I mean, some people think it's definite. I still think that 4th 1 seed may be up in the air. Who, if you were to guess right now, who would you think it is?
I mean, I'd say Houston.
So I wouldn't be surprised. I think Houston probably will, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody else got bumped ahead of them because of strength of schedule, or if Houston, struggles this weekend. Houston almost lost the other night to an absolute nobody. Um, it's going to be interesting. I don't think I will be stunned. Every year they make a big deal about the one person who got the entire bracket right. I'm not so sure anybody will have a correct bracket by Sunday. I mean, it is going to be so wide open. I mean, look at Baylor. People were talking about Baylor could be a dark horse to win it. They lost to Iowa State today in the quarterfinals of the Big 12 tournament. I don't know how you pick these games. It's going to be a free for all.
So we Sunday night, just like Rustin said, Sunday night we'll be having our own bracketology episode here, and I don't know, we might even create like a ESPN bracket challenge and have like the Vol Bros bracket challenge, and we can put that on the link Sunday night, and people can join the bracket, that kind of thing. We have some fun with that. We can give away a battered Vol syndrome survivor shirt as to the winner or something like that. That'd be fun. So, I mean, it's March. It's the best time of the year for basketball. That's for sure.
Arkansas is currently beating Auburn by 15.
Wow. You never know, man. You just never know what's going to happen. Recently, the Tennessee Athletic Department announced that the orange and white game has a time set now. It's going to be April 15th at 2:30 p.m. We knew it was going to be April 15th. We did not know what time until this week, and it's going to be 2:30 p.m. There's a $5 admission charge. A lot of people are not happy about that. Other people are like, who cares? It's just $5. But whatever side of the fence you fall on, 2:30 is the game time right there, 2:30. Speaking of Vol football, spring practice is starting. And so we are going to start a little segment here that we're going to do over the next few weeks. And each time we go live, we'll probably break down and probably even just release some videos when we're not live too. But we're going to break down a couple positions, preview a couple positions on the field. So we're going to start with probably the two easiest today, quarterbacks and running backs. And then we'll probably break these two videos down as individual videos and post them in the next couple of days too. So Tennessee's quarterback situation heading into the 2023 season. I think we could all agree it is Joe Milton's job. Actually, Josh Mancuso recorded a video with Joe Milton today, apparently. So that'll be something to look forward to. Nico Iamaleava. If you just say it really fast, then it sounds like you're doing it right no matter what. So Nico is going to be, clearly he will be the backup quarterback.
Right now, he's the only backup.
Yeah, exactly. So what happened to Gaston Moore? Is he not there?
Well, scholarship backup.
Okay, cool. Gaston's my boy. He can sling it. Now, not as good as Joe or Nico, but like he's fun to watch, and he gets in there in like garbage time. He's fun to watch. What's your outlook on the quarterbacks for this upcoming season?
I think it's going to be real interesting to see. Everybody forgets that there's another transfer portal session. People tend to forget that happens again after spring practice.
That's right.
So I think the absolute best thing that could happen for everyone involved, and some people aren't going to like to hear this, the absolute best thing could happen for everybody involved is if they can go out in the transfer portal and find a kid who lost a job somewhere else or didn't win a job somewhere else, who's a decent thrower and is willing to come be the backup, and understands that next year they're going to fight Nico for the job and maybe lose, but they're willing to take that chance. because the best thing that can possibly happen is for Joe to play every snap all year. When we get big leads, let the transfer portal quarterback come in and finish games off, and redshirt Nico. Yeah, I know. There a bunch of people just stopped listening. And it's not that I don't want to see Nico. I want to get back to where we were in the mid 90s, where we were stockpiling big name quarterbacks, but they were at every other year. There's a 2-year gap between your studs. If you can keep a 2-year gap between your studs at quarterback, they're willing to hang around and wait on their turn because they know they're going to get 2 years. Some of them may not need to. Some of them may be so good in one that they just go straight to the NFL when it comes time. But if you can stockpile big time quarterbacks and put a 2-year separation between them, then the transfer portal isn't an issue anymore. But every once in a while, you'll have to find a guy in the portal to be the backup, just in case. But if Nico can redshirt this year, I mean, look at that kid. Number one, he's rail thin. Now he's strong, but he hasn't been in a college weight room strong that long. And so, when he gets into a full year of a Tennessee speed and strength program, that kid's going to be a physical freak. But he needs a little muscle mass. He needs some pounds on him. So it would be ideal if he could redshirt. And that doesn't mean he doesn't get to play this year. He can play in up to 4 games and still redshirt. So they can still get him some reps. But, if he could redshirt, that would be the perfect scenario.
Well, and to your point about having 2 years, I mean, look at Hendon Hooker. The guy went from, think about this. He went from losing the starting job before not even getting the starting job. The season that he was coming in, people thought he was going to get the starting job, and he didn't get it. And by the end of the second year, he's the 5th place person for the Heisman. So they only need, and now you look at Joe Milton. Is there any doubt that at the end of this season, Joe Milton will not be invited to the NFL Combine, and the whole time they'll be talking about he can throw the ball 80 yards in the air? I mean, like, that's gonna happen.
Look at Florida's quarterback right now. I mean, he's absolutely blown up in draft rankings. Anthony Richardson was probably the most inconsistent quarterback in America this past year. And, because he has one good day at the combine, all of a sudden, every single coach that coached against him this past year must be an idiot because he's the second coming. It is amazing how some of those draft guys will just go nuts over a combine workout. And it's like, dude, there's not guys out there flying around him right now. Like, it's real easy to look good when there's nothing happening.
Exactly. And now you think about, it's just a show at the NFL Combine. They're looking at their physique, they're looking at their vertical, that kind of stuff. Imagine Joe Milton walking in there next year.
Yeah,
I mean, he's going to be he will be the talk of the whole combine. He'll be all you see on it. All the stuff about Will Levis this year, and Will Levis is talking about why people asked him, why are you throwing at the combine? He goes, because I got a cannon. I'm going to show it off. Like, whatever, dude. I mean, Joe Milton's going to walk in there and throw the ball out of the daggum stadium. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, it. So
for those of you
the talk of the week next year, and they're in the combine.
Yeah. For those of you who don't listen, every morning from 7 to 10 Central in Birmingham, WJOX has the McElroy and Kubelik show. Greg McElroy and Cole Kubelik are on the air every morning for 3 hours. It is excellent. They are completely fair and balanced. They talk about everything under the sun. Because of their connections at ESPN, they get amazing guests, and it's one of the best radio shows in the country. And they have an app. You can listen to it online on a podcast. I would encourage anybody If you're just looking for a really good breakdown of college sports, McElroy and Kublik in the morning is really good. But the other morning, they spent an entire 3 hours breaking down combine busts, and they went through like the last 20 years and gave all the stats of guys who were combine freaks whose draft status skyrocketed, and then they did literally nothing in the NFL. And some of it was
That would be
firsthand.
fascinating.
Oh, it was incredible. And some of it was firsthand because some of it was combines that Greg McElroy was at and competed in. And so he was telling stories about guys that he was literally standing next to and going, why is everybody excited about this guy? He's terrible. Like I've watched this guy for 4 years. He can't play. And at one point, Greg McElroy even said on the air that the NFL Combine is the biggest waste of time in all of sports. But it was fascinating. It was pretty incredible.
Chatsworth 1979 said Milton will be the Hulk Hogan of next year's combine. Yeah, dude, if he rips his shirt though and he has like the tearaway shirt, like that would be awesome. Like that would be cool. He could do it, and he's strong enough, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, people are going to be drooling over him next year in the combine because of his measurables and because he can jump out of the. I mean, listen, everybody was like, "Wow, Anthony Richardson set." I think he set the record for highest vertical of a quarterback in any NFL combine ever. Okay, well, guess what? That record's going to last 365 days because next year, Joe Milton, who goes and does like standing backflips in the back of the end zone to warm up, he's going to walk in there and jump out of the stadium. That's one thing, you saw this year before games, Joe Milton and Hendon Hooker would be warming up by throwing each other like fade routes in the corner of the end zone. And I vividly remember one time there was a Twitter, video on there of Joe going up to catch one. Dude, he jumped higher than any receiver Tennessee had all year, jumping up to catch that ball. And he caught it one-handed. I mean, it was crazy. He's crazy athletic. So we say all this, Rustin was talking about quarterbacks just need 2 years. If they have 2 years and they can show up what they can do, that's exactly right. And in some situations, they don't even need 2 years. Like Rustin said, they just need one. Joe, just because of his physical prowess and his arm strength, he will be invited to the NFL Combine next year. There will be an NFL team that drafts him because if you have a guy, I mean, look, don't you think the Philadelphia Eagles would have liked to have had a guy who can throw the ball 80 yards at the end of the game in the Super Bowl this year? Yeah, they sure would have. And so, I mean, if you got a guy who can chuck the ball literally the length of the field, yeah, you're going to find a spot for him on the roster. That's how that's going to go down.
Well, it's like the DK Metcalf, Pete Carroll story. Everybody likes to tell the story about the day that DK Metcalf was at the combine, and he, every NFL team has a room. They have a meeting room that they can meet with players in privately. And before DK Metcalf went into the Seahawks room, Pete Carroll was in there. His agent said, "Hey, take your shirt off." And so Metcalf's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Just take your shirt off. Trust me." So DK Metcalf, who looks like a Greek god, takes his shirt off and walks into the meeting topless. And Pete Carroll bursts into laughter and looks at the scouts, and just because sheerly of DK Metcalf's physique and how huge he was, he looks at their scouts and goes, "We're drafting this guy." And then in the second round they did. And everybody said it literally came down to him walking in without his shirt on and Pete Carroll going, "Holy cow, this dude's huge. Yeah, we're picking him." That's all it took.
And it worked out for him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we can all agree the quarterback position is Joe Milton's to lose this year. And for the sake of Tennessee, we all need to hope that he tears it up. That he is the leader they need him to be, that he is the sixth-year senior that they need him to be, and that he is the potentially even a Heisman candidate that they need him to be. Because once again, people are going to, I mean, my goodness, if you're dropping back from the opposite 40 and throwing deep balls to Squirrel White down the sideline and he's catching them in stride and going in the end zone, that's gonna make some noise. Okay, I mean that's
Mhm.
nationally speaking, that's gonna make some noise because it's so effortless the way he throws the ball. And I mean, if he can hit deep balls like he did in the Orange Bowl, uh, he only had really one, maybe two opportunities against Vanderbilt, but he had the one ball to, I think it was Jalen Hyatt against Vanderbilt. Maybe that was Squirrel. No, I think that was Jalen Hyatt. Down the left sideline. If he can consistently hit those passes, he's going to skyrocket up draft boards, and he's going to skyrocket up Heisman, trophy watch list because he's just so unique. He's just
Well,
so odd that someone can throw the ball that hard and that far and make it look like he's barely like I'll
he
never
doesn't
forget
try.
his exactly. I'll never forget his interview with Austin Price and Cade Mays at the beginning of last season, or I guess 2 years ago now, not 2022, but 2021, when he won the starting job. And it was on that Tennessee Prime show. And Austin asked him about throwing it. And Joe looked at him and said, I really don't be throwing the ball that hard. Like that's what he said. Those are his exact words. He's like, I'm really not throwing it that hard, but it's coming out of his hand like a bazooka because it's crazy. And so
Think about this. So Hendon hasn't thrown a ball yet, but he's gone to the Senior Bowl. He's gone to the Combine. Almost every draft analyst is saying he's going to go in the second round because he has so impressed. He has so impressed NFL scouts just with his intelligence and leadership. Okay. For the last 2 years, all anybody around the Tennessee program has said is the smartest quarterback in the room is Joe Milton. That he's the guy that all the quarterbacks would go to when they had questions. He's the guy who broke down defenses better than anybody. So here's Hendon Hooker, who's gone from 4th or 5th round to definite second round pick just based on his sheer intelligence. Next year, you got Joe, who's a physical freak, showing up at the Combine, and then they're going to be blown away by his intelligence and his ability. He's going to be an absolute first rounder if he does what he should do. So
Right.
we're going to have 2 quarterbacks in 2 years get drafted in the top 2 rounds. Think about what that's going to do for recruiting and for Josh Heupel.
Absolutely.
Every quarterback in America is going to want to be coming to Knoxville, Tennessee.
Well, I would liken it to when Lincoln Riley was at Oklahoma. All of a sudden, Oklahoma had a quarterback in the Heisman discussion every year, and we've already seen that's started out the way in Knoxville so far with Hendon. I guarantee you, if Joe has, even just not even like his full potential, but just lives up to some of the hype, it's gonna be happening again because it's like I said, he's just so unique. He's an oddity that this guy is bigger than the linebackers on the opposing team, and he's faster than all of them too. Oh, and he's throwing the ball to Nashville from Knoxville. It's an oddity, and he throws lasers over the middle of the field at 90 something miles an hour.
And
he
then add on
literally
top of
broke
that,
a wide receiver's hand during practice this year.
and then add on top of that, because this is the differentiator. You just described Jamarcus Russell, who was the first overall pick in the NFL draft, but he didn't pan out because he was dumb as a box of rocks. Okay. He failed the Wonderlic test. He's one of the only quarterbacks ever to fail the Wonderlic test. That's hard to do. Joe Milton, again, everybody around the program says he is hands down the smartest quarterback in the room. And that was when Hendon was in the room. Like, you put a guy with that physical ability, with the intelligence to understand defenses, sky's the limit.
Now, I'll tell you what, here will be the real kicker in the NFL Combine next year. If they have a rabbit catching competition, it's over at that point. No one will beat Joe.
You don't mess with
gonna be,
Pahokee, Florida when it comes to rabbit catching.
that's exactly right. Rebecca and Houndstooth Company. Hey, how's it going, Rebecca? She said it's going to be Joe's year. I see so many amazing things on the horizon for him. I totally agree. This will be Joe's 3rd year under the coaching of Josh Heupel.
He's got 5 amazing things on the horizon for him: Brew McCoy, Dante Thornton, Squirrel White, Ramel Keaton, and Jacob Warren.
Well played. Well played.
Those are 5 very amazing things on the horizon. He can throw to any of them.
Well played. I hope so, man. I hope so. And hopefully Ethan Davis comes in as a tight end and does really well too. Chatsworth 1979 said, Squirrel may be the only wide receiver that can catch his truly deep. Yeah, for real.
He hasn't seen Dante Thornton run.
Yeah, Dante can run. Yeah.
Dante might be as fast as Squirrel.
It's going to be fun to watch. I mean, seriously, if nobody heard Joey Halsey's interview after he got the job, if you just want to get pumped up for a minute, just go watch that interview, because in the interview, he said that people were asking about, his offensive philosophy and stuff. And he goes, I want to score on every play. Those were his exact words. He was like, I want to score on every single play. Like, when they run a play, it is for the purpose of getting to the end zone. Like, that's what they're doing. And that's what's so crazy is now, I mean, what's the difference if you're Joey Halsey or Josh Heupel, which Josh Heupel's probably going to call plays this year, but what's the difference if you're on the opposite 40 or the opposite 5-yard line? You have guys who can flat out outrun the defense, and a quarterback can throw it past their locker room. So I mean, like, you're just like, hey guys, just go. And then you just throw it over the top of it. I mean, it could be so much fun to watch.
And the beauty of that is the offensive line is going to be very good. Like, they've done a good job replenishing. They've got guys coming back that can play. So, when you've got vertical players who can stretch the defense, and the safeties know Joe can throw the ball that far, so they play even further back. You've got guys stretching, which opens
the field, up underneath slant routes.
And then all of a sudden Joe keeps it. You know, there's going to be wide open running lanes for him. People are going to see this all year. There's going to be lanes for him to run 10, 15 yards untouched, because the safeties are so far downfield trying to cover guys that it's just going to take a while for him to get back to the play. Like, it's going to be, people are going to have to pick their poison.
I want to go back to one thing about what Rebecca and company Houndstooth said here, because I keep going back to Drew Lock. Drew Lock played underneath Josh Heupel as his offensive coordinator at Missouri.
Yep.
And one of the I love the SEC inside shows. I love hearing, the behind the scenes stuff. And one of the first ones they ever did was Drew Lock's freshman year, when the quarterback in front of him got hurt and Drew had to go into the game mid-game.
Yeah.
And so here's this true freshman quarterback who is in the game for the first time ever. And to see what happened in that video compared to when he was just 2 or 3 years later as a junior and senior, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Heupel had Drew Lock setting SEC records and offensive records at Missouri. And that video, my favorite line of the whole thing is, there was a senior running back who was lined up beside Drew Lock in the shotgun, and he looks over at him and he goes, and he like tries to whisper it so the defense can't hear. He goes, "Are you going in motion?" Here's this guy who's supposed to be running the show, and he comes in, true freshman, and he's like, I don't even know what's happening right now. And so he looks at the guy and goes, "Are you going in motion?" And then you compare that to just 3 years later when he's in potential Heisman talk, Drew Lock at Missouri, I mean, like, and that's because of Josh Heupel.
Mm-hmm.
So give him someone with the physical tools of Joe Milton, and let's go see what happens. I mean, like, it's very exciting to be, as a Vols fan. It's very, very exciting. Well, so our last group that we'll talk about today, and obviously, we'll continue this in other position groups in the future, but running backs, or Tennessee's running back, led the SEC this past season in touchdowns scored.
And
And
all
that's the
three are
thing.
back.
Everybody talked about Tennessee was a gimmick offense. They just threw the ball over. Their rushers led the SEC in touchdowns scored, but people don't know that because it was so dynamic when you see Jalen Hyatt scoring 5 touchdowns against Alabama through the air. But this group is a really, really strong group who's coming back.
I think this group right here creates Tennessee's biggest issues, because I don't know how you get all these guys touches.
Yeah,
You've got Jabari Small, Jalen Wright, and Dylan Sampson coming back. All three of them could be the starter at every other school in the SEC. All three. Other people aren't going to want to hear that, but it's real. Um, you know, what's crazy is, again, Joe has the ability to run the ball. They can run a lot of sprint draws with him. They can put Jalen right back there and let him be a fullback for Joe and run some power stuff. He's got a huge target underneath in Brew McCoy, who, oh, by the way, can also stretch you deep. He's got a slot target in Jacob Warren that can play down the middle of the field anytime he wants to. He's got a dynamic receiver in Ramel Keaton who can just go make plays. He's got 2 burners in Dante Thornton and Squirrel White. I don't know how you get all these guys the ball. I think that's going to be their biggest issue, is figure out how in the world do we involve all these people. And so, obviously those 3 are going to be the top 3 on the depth chart. What's going to be real interesting, though, and it might be that they just say, okay, we're going to redshirt everybody else, because they do have Khalifa Keith and Deshaun Bishop. And
right.
anybody who's from the Knoxville area will tell you Deshaun Bishop is going to be a player. He flew under the radar because he was at Carnes, and everybody's kind of like, we're not sure how good he really is because of the competition he's playing. No, that kid can fly. He is going to be a player. The question is just going to be when. Khalifa Keith, he was one of the highest rated running backs in the country. Kentucky had him as their number 1 priority. And I don't mean at running back, I mean number 1 priority. He was first on their recruiting board for all positions. And, Tennessee got him. So the other one that's going to be real interesting is Cameron Seldon.
Yep.
He every single person who has watched that kid at UT has said he reminds them of Cordero Patterson. He's a huge wide receiver that runs like a deer and can carry the mail. You can hand it to him and he can tote it. So they've already been talking about packages for him where he can function like Deebo Samuel with the 49ers. So they've got so much depth and talent now at the skill positions. I think what'll probably happen is they'll just play the top 3 and redshirt everybody else. But man, I mean, if injuries happen, it's not going to be a problem.
Which that's legit, because as we've seen every single year of Jabari Small's career, every year that shoulder, there's always been an issue there. And so, obviously we hope nothing but the best for Jabari and that he has a completely healthy year. I'd love to see him have a completely healthy year, because we haven't got to see that yet. He's always had an injury at some point in the year. So I'd love to see him fully healthy for the whole year. Speaking of Cam Seldon, Chatsworth 1979 said there will never be another Patterson. Dude was a ghost and a cheetah all in one. Yeah, that's
Just
right.
wait.
Oh.
The second coming is on campus. People who know football and who were around Cordero are already saying Cameron Seldon. I mean, people who are on the support staff who were around Cordero Patterson when he was there, who are now back on campus under Josh Heupel, are saying it's eerie that he reminds them so much of Cordero.
Think about this Tennessee's go-to play in 2-point conversion situations and sometimes in goal line situations was the option with Hendon and the running back, and then a shovel pass option with typically Princeton Fant coming inside. So you got, and Chatsworth 1979 was pumped about that news. Absolutely. He said that's so great to hear. But you think about that this next year, you'll have Joe Milton with one of the three running backs, whoever is in there, all of them. I mean, all of them can punish you, especially Jalen Wright. He can flat out hurt you when he hits you. And so you've got those two guys in the backfield, either Jacob Warren or probably it may be Ethan Davis as a tight end in that particular situation. Imagine being the cornerback or a nickel or the defensive end when Joe and that running back start running at you. And you're like, oh man, pick your poison here. Do I hit Joe? If so, I'm going to end up hurt because he's going to hit me probably harder than I'm going to hit him. Or do I hit Jalen? That he's going to hit me harder than I'm going to hit him. So, that's a two-headed monster coming at you right there on every option play that they run.
So, well, and imagine this. Imagine
because
if Cameron.
Joe doesn't shy away from contact.
Right.
Joe initiates contact.
So Heupel likes to run a play that he didn't really get to run this past year. I think he probably wanted to more with Squirrel, and it just never really fit. But he likes to run a play where he runs jet motion across opposite of the option and gives the quarterback the opportunity to read it. So the quarterback can either hand it off for the jet sweep going to the left, or he can keep it and run option to the right. So imagine Cameron Seldon coming across that formation. And just for those of you who don't know, before Cameron Seldon got to campus, and he was an early enrollee, so he's been in the strength program. Before he ever stepped foot on campus, he was already 6'1", 210, okay, of solid muscle. But listen to this. He is the current Virginia high school record holder in the 100 with a 10.7400. So 6'1", 210 before he got in the Tennessee strength program, running a 10.700 for the Virginia high school record. Okay.
Just so we're clear, Usain Bolt's Olympic record, I believe, was 9.82 in 100.
Well,
so that's pretty fast to run a 10.7.
Let me make it even more impressive. Guess who held that 100 record before Cameron Seldon?
Justin Hunter?
Michael Vick.
Oh, well, there you go. Because Justin Hunter was from Virginia Beach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't he from Virginia? I think he's from Virginia Beach.
Yep.
No,
the former state high school 100 champion record holder was Michael Vick, and he held that record for 20-something years until last year when it was broken by Cameron Seldon.
I think it's fair to say that Michael Vick was a decent athlete.
A little bit.
Chatsworth 1979 likes that one. So did Rebecca and Company Houndstooth. She said, "Eek, so many exciting things to come. I just can't wait. How many more days is it until football season?" Exactly. Thankfully we get a month and a few days, we get the orange and white game. So hopefully we'll get to see some of these guys out there then. Hey, I mean, it might be to the point now to where they have enough to actually have an actual orange and white game where they can play, ones on ones and twos on twos or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be fun to see. Bottom line, if you are a big Orange fan, there is a whole lot of reason to be excited about the quarterback position and the running back position. And next time we'll talk about wide receivers, and that'll just get you even more excited.
Yeah.
Chatsworth 1979 said, "Can't imagine such athleticism. I have to stand on my toothpaste to get it." to get out of there too. That's pretty good. I like
Those
that.
things can be tricky. You got to do the
Yeah.
roll.
Yeah. I like that. That's good. But yeah, Sunday night, like Rustin was saying earlier, the next time we go live is going to be Sunday night. And so it'll be, hopefully, we'll be discussing a Tennessee men's basketball repeat tournament champion title. Hopefully that's what we're talking about. But even if not, then we'll be talking about bracketology. We'll be talking bracketology. We'll put out the link for our March Madness bracketology with the Vol Bros, and then we're going to talk about some wide receivers. And we hadn't picked the other group yet, but we'll do 2 per show, so we'll do another group. But we got to talk about wide receivers because, man, talk about a plethora of riches. That's really what the wide receiver group is.
We can do tight ends with them because in that offense they're basically the same.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we'll do that. And I mean, like I said, a smorgasbord of riches when you look at the skill positions at Tennessee. And so here's what you can be looking for and on the SEC network leading into the season, because they start doing this probably in August is when they start doing this. But they always start having their like season preview position rankings. And at the end of each show, they'll take a position group and they'll say, okay, which team has the best wide receiver group, or which team has the best running back group, or which team, whatever. You should expect to see Tennessee's wide receivers. Really, here's what's going to happen. No one's going to put them at the top of their list because they lost Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman. By the end of the season, Tennessee will be at the top of everybody's list as far as wide receiver group, because there's just so much depth. That's the thing.
Yeah. The only one who can compete with them is Georgia, just because of the 2 guys they got out of the transfer portal.
Absolutely.
But outside of Tennessee and Georgia, there's nobody else close.
And the one reason why it's going to end up being, Tennessee in the end is because of how much points they're going to put up and how productive they're going to be because of Josh Heupel and his offense. It is not a gimmicky offense. He's just better at this than everybody else is at defending it. I mean, that's the bottom line. It's not a gimmick listen, if it works for like a year or 2, that's a gimmick. Okay. This has been working for the last 8 years of Josh Heupel's career. I mean, this is not some gimmick.
Well, even before that,
proven results.
Even before that, I mean, this is Art Briles' system. Like this has been working for 20 years.
So it's going to keep working. And that's one reason why you'll consistently see Tennessee quarterbacks and wide receivers, Tennessee quarterbacks and talks for Heisman, Tennessee wide receivers at the top of the Biletnikoff list, because there's going to be people who are just racking up yards and it's because of this offense. But in the meantime, that somehow makes the running backs get overlooked when they're scoring even more than the wide receivers. So I mean, it's exciting, man. What a difference from 2019 and under Pruitt and 2018 under Pruitt, when we were like, hey, we got a first down. All right, that's awesome, and now it's, I liken it to baseball. When Blake Burke has a whole game where he doesn't hit a home run, it's almost weird now.
Mm-hmm.
When Tennessee is on offense and they don't score, that's weird now.
Yeah.
That's a good problem to have. That's a good problem to have.
Speaking of home runs, before we end, we forgot softball. We need to talk about one thing because it's just unbelievable. Softball ruled Tennessee Tech 19-0 this week. They're now 17-1, number 5 in the country. One poll has them number 4. But Kiki Malloy, we've got to talk about this.
Best hitter in the country.
Kiki Malloy is now hitting .519 with 10 home runs. Now, 10 home runs in 18 games by itself is incredible, but let me make it even more amazing. She has 52 at-bats. She's hitting a home run every 5 at-bats.
Holy cow. That's phenomenal. I mean, that is phenomenal. That'll be something that will never happen again. I mean, that's bizarre.
Their current
People might
team
say,
they've now thrown 6 different pitchers. 6 different pitchers have gotten a win. Their current team ERA is 0.58.
it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
So when you do the math, they could be probably 17-1 right now if Kiki Malloy was the only person hitting.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think she might have outscored every other team at this point.
Well, and that's the thing, people will say, well, how have they played so many games, but yet she only has 50 something at bats? It's because they're run rolling everybody.
Yeah.
Like they're ending games in 4 and 5 innings. I mean, like it's
and like Tennessee Tech, they beat them 19-0. In those kind of games, you're emptying the bench and everybody's getting to play. So it cuts down on your best players at bats.
That's exactly right. So I mean, just think if she was getting a full game's worth of at bats.
Right.
It's crazy. It's unreal. Well, that's super exciting. Obviously, we hope she keeps tearing it up. We will see everybody on Sunday night, a little bracketology and some wide receivers and tight ends discussion. So we hope everybody joins us then. Be looking on for this. If you're just catching this now, maybe you just joined the live stream or something like that. Obviously, this video will be living forever on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. But the specific discussion we had about quarterbacks and the specific discussion we had and preview we had about running backs, we're going to post those tomorrow and Saturday. So those will be standalone videos that you can see. But we thank everybody for joining us tonight. This has been fun as always. We love the interaction. That's the best part, really. We love that. We will see. Oh, we got one more comment come through. Appreciate you, Chatsworth 1979. He said, been fun. Thanks, y'all. Absolutely. We thank you too very much. So we will see everybody very soon on Sunday night. Go Vols tomorrow, 3:30 Eastern time against Missouri. And if they win that, then most likely they'll end up playing Alabama in the semifinals, most likely. But who knows? Anything can happen in that other game as well. So go Vols. We'll see everybody very soon. And we hope everybody has a great evening.